Hi there, it's Metaverse Zing. Welcome back to the channel. Ever since racing was announced, the people of Upland have been heavily engaged in the racing preparations. There are groups building racetracks, forming driving teams, finding sponsors, people planning to build car showrooms, parking lots, training academies, and even some sort of unofficial betting. The introduction of cars has brought a lot of use cases to keep the population engaged. If it does kick off the way it's expected to, it can become really big in the future. And that's not all. Upland team and MV Motors might also partner with real car brands like Audi, BMW, Nissan to introduce those flagship cars into the Upland metaverse. When that happens, it's gonna get really interesting. First, these car brands will probably pay Upland to get recognition. That means more money to Upland and hence more development in the future. Second, it kind of aligns with Upland's mission of replicating the real world in this metaverse. Having actual cars kind of aligns with that mission. Third, imagine one of these brands is launching a new car sometime in the future. People would excitedly wait for the NFT release so that they can use the same car in the Upland metaverse. It's a great way for the brands to create some sort of buzz in the market. Someday, these brands might also offer their customers a replica NFT when they buy the real car. Hopes aside, it's not gonna happen right now. The current user base is just not exciting enough for the brands. Things might look different when we have probably hit 1 million monthly active users. To summarize, racing has a bright future in Upland. If you get in early, it'll be great. That doesn't mean that you have to buy cars or racetrack properties at 1000% markup. What it means is, if you see a good opportunity, don't miss it. We've got only 162 cars so far. Upland is supposed to release 6,000 cars in total. 500 of them will be Series 1 cars, which will be used in racing. So if you haven't got one yet, don't panic, wait for the sales, you might eventually get one. If you do not get one, try your secondary market later. Coming back to the main point, racetracks. I went through all of the racetracks registered with Upland Racing League, URL, and these are the ones I feel you should keep an eye on. This is based on who owns the track, if they have a node, the ownership and building completion along the track, and finally the racetrack itself, how thrilling the race could be. There are currently 42 racetracks in Upland Racing League. I'm pretty sure there are 10 or 15 more which are currently being reviewed by the team and will probably go public in a few days. There might also be a few racetracks that aren't affiliated with URL. I'll wait for a little while until they all surface and we can cover them later. Anyway, back to racetracks. Starting with Chicago, we've got Portage Park. The community has two racetracks, a dragstrip and a circuit, and both are really awesome. We already know how active the Portage Park community is. They have the vision, they have the people, and hence they have the potential of building an amazing racetrack. Talking about the dragstrip first, we've got Portage Quarter Mile. As the name suggests, it's going to be a short racetrack of 0.25 miles length, starting here at Chase and ends at the Long Avenue intersection. Speaking of Chase Bank, when we get brands in Upland, Portage Park should probably get Chase as the racetrack sponsor. The placement is apt, it's the start of the race. The property has got the right label. In terms of Upland users, we're all investors and are going to need a bank, right? I know we don't have enough opportunities to advertise sponsors in here yet, but with outdoor decor items like billboards or banners, we could probably get enough visibility for the sponsors. The billboard or banner could probably have a placeholder where you upload an image, a GIF, or maybe a video that plays all the time. The content can be reviewed by the Upland team to make sure nothing wrong is being put up. The building will get enough eyeballs during the races or when somebody is just checking out the building. The traffic might convince the brands to pay for it. And that's just user or community level sponsorships. Upland could also create a few high engagement hotspots themselves. You might someday see a commercial Times Square in Upland. Enough about sponsorships, that's the track. Looks very beautiful with all of these symmetric red and white buildings. None of these properties are on sale, so if you want to get in, you'll probably have to make a very impressive offer to one of these folks, which they may or may not accept. Last thing, since it's a very short track in a straight line, the drivers must have really high acceleration and high speed to finish faster. Portage Park also has a circuit track called Portage Grand Prix. It looks somewhat like this, like an F. I think it starts here, then you go along the racetrack, and then you come back to complete a lap. They've made sure to cover all of the 3 MetaVenture shops in the racetrack, so that's really smart. There are some properties up for sale. I think the cheapest one is probably going to cost you 40,000 UpX or something, so see if you want to get in. Second one is Boystown Short Circuit. Also has the unpopular name Kiss of Death because of this hairpin. This one is our own racetrack that belongs to our Boystown community. A couple of things about the track. It's a very short track of just 1.9 miles length. It's gonna be a circuit race with probably 3 laps or so. We can't really decide the number of laps until we see how long the cars take to complete a lap. because we don't want to make it too short or too monotonous. We already own 51% of the track and have hit 12% building completion. Our goal is to hit 20% building completion in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think there are about 242 properties in total. About the race, you start here. So all of the drivers will be lined up like this. You start the race with the drag kind of mode till this very point. So speed and acceleration are going to be very important until you meet this hairpin, which forces you to slow down and drift along the track to move toward Broadway Street. Here, handling and braking is going to be super important. And then you pick up speed again toward Broadway Street. You come down and then you enter Boystown neighborhood from Cornelia Avenue, take another turn, another one, and then back to Broadway Street. And then you take a right turn at Melrose Street and then back to the starting point. That's how you complete your first lap. We also have a pit row for drivers to tune their cars. Instead of taking a right at Melrose, you continue driving and you hit Belmont Avenue, where you see your designated pit stop. You tune your car and then you're back to the racetrack. I know it doesn't make sense to have pit stops right now because there's no tuning of cars. We don't have to change the wheels, we don't have to refuel the cars. It's probably gonna be electric, which will use spark. So I'm guessing that the charging is gonna take a while. So it doesn't make sense to do it while you're racing. Second, pit stops actually make sense when the race is much longer. Probably 50 or 60 laps of this. That's when your cars will probably get rough or you would need to refuel the cars, or in this case, charge the cars. So even if it doesn't happen right now, we have the plan. So when these things are reduced by Upland, we're ready. Very excited about the track as it tests different capabilities of the car. So everyone has a good chance of winning. If you're good with speed but bad at handling, you're probably gonna find it very difficult on the turns, like this one or this one or this one. If you're good with handling and braking but don't have really high speed, you'll probably lose the battle in the drag strip, like this one or maybe this line as well. If you want to win this race, please make sure you have an all-rounded car as well as Block Explorer, or at least a combination of both together so that you get decent speed, acceleration, braking and handling, because that's what you're going to need to sail through the circuit. There are no unminted properties left, so if you want to get in, you'll have to purchase the property in the secondary market. You can either buy one of these listed properties, the ones in green, or you can make an offer by yourself. I think for properties outside of Boystown in the Lakeview side, it's probably going to cost you 60,000 to 100,000 to purchase one property here. If you're planning to buy something within Boystown to be a part of the node as well, then that might cost you a little more, probably around 100,000 or 120,000 for one property. For the next racetrack, we're flying to San Francisco. Now, San Francisco tracks are completely owned by Midtown Terrace as of now. They have 3 racetracks in here. There's a sprint, there's a circuit, and there's a dragstrip. There's this 0.5 miles sprint track along Delbrook Avenue and Olympia Way Loop. So it goes like this. Construction wise, it's pretty much done. The only listed property you'll see is gonna cost you 25 million UPEX. Let's see. Yes, so obviously a bit inflated, but even if you're trying to buy something here with an offer, please note that the cheapest Midtown Terrace property, regardless of racetrack, is gonna cost you 800,000 UPEX. So if you're trying to buy something on the racetrack, it might cost you a little higher than that. Could be somewhere between 1 million or 1.5 million UPEX, or maybe more. Midtown Terrace also has a drag strip. It's a 0.4 miles long track, starts here and goes all the way till here. They also have a 1.8 mile long circuit track. I think it starts somewhere here, then it goes like this, then this, then this. You can actually look at the map here. I'm personally very excited about this one as it covers most of the iconic neighborhood. As you enter the race, I can guarantee that the view will be as amazing as the race itself. Nothing specific in Santa Clara. Someone should plan a drag strip next to MV Motors factory. I think you can start somewhere here on the Bassett Street and go all the way till here. It'll look really beautiful when you see all of these colorful buildings on the left side and the gigantic factory on the right side. Moving on to Bakersfield, we've got Quailwood Ring. It's in Quailwood neighborhood. Here's a map of the racetrack. It starts somewhere here, then you go like this, then you go down, then you come back up, and then you cover the entire neighborhood. The cheapest listing on the track is gonna cost you 145,000 UPEX, which doesn't sound like a bad deal given it's a small townhouse. You can also try making offers of lower value to other properties, which may or may not work. For the next one, we'll fly a little south to Los Angeles. LA has 7 tracks so far. My favorite ones are: number 1, LA Speedway. The oceanfront walk side of LA Speedway was highly speculated to be a collection. Some people bought these properties for 700,000 UPEX or even a million UPEX. Although did not become a collection, became a drag strip. I'm not sure about the length of the track, but what I know is it starts here and goes all the way till here. Again, since it's a drag strip, cars with high acceleration and speed will have an advantage. I think the cheapest property on the left side of the track will probably cost you around 350,000 OPEX. On the right side, you might find something for as cheap as 140,000 OPEX or so. Number 2, Hollywood Hills, quarter mile. Owned by Gilded Gamers. As the name suggests, it's a 0.25 mile long drag strip. I think it starts here and goes all the way till here. Love the idea of building only apartments along the track. It's definitely gonna look really awesome, at least on the left side. Guessing they're all gonna be golden in color because of these two. I'm really excited to see how it looks once it's all done. They also have a circuit track. Here's the map. Construction wise, there's a lot of work left. I believe the team is focusing on the drag strip first, as it anyway overlaps with the circuit track. The cheapest property on the track is probably this one for $120. In UPEX, I think I saw one at the bottom for 300,000 UPEX. Number 3, Ithaca Run by BOC. It's a mile-long sprint that starts somewhere here, and I think it goes like this. Going strong construction-wise, the cheapest property is gonna cost you 50,000 UPEX right now. I would have bought it, but I'm saving money for the Chicago terminal, but see if you wanna buy it. Honorable mention to 10 Dam Miles by Nubbix. It's in the Hanson Dam neighborhood. The special thing about the neighborhood is that it's such a large neighborhood, but there are just 22 properties in here. While I couldn't find the exact racetrack, someone mentioned that it's a 10.2 mile long track. So 10 Dam Mile is actually a very clever name if that's true. Going by the length, I'm gonna say it's the entire outline of the neighborhood. Wait for the team to confirm the racetrack. If it's indeed the outline, I think you'll find some unminted properties along the track. I think I've seen some here. Yes, like this. So if it's indeed the outline, just quickly jump to LA and try to mint something here if you want to get in. If you're feeling adventurous and don't want to wait for the announcement, I'll say just mint one or two anyway. Doesn't hurt, right? Let's jump to Detroit now. JR Wheels is building a drag strip, a sprint, and a circuit track along the French Road. Construction wise, the drag strip has shaped really well. I think you can still get a cheap property for just 100 million UPEX. Okay, that's not the one. It's probably this one, I think. Yes, you can get this one for 100,000 UPEX if you still want in. Special thanks to JR Wheels for helping us get our Boystown track sanctioned. JR also has a circuit track and a sprint track. I especially like the sprint track because of these curvy sections. Kinda reminds me of Tokyo Drift. So if you've got good handling, good braking and decent acceleration, you'll cruise along just fine. The second one is by Tosshead on Livernois Avenue, the Avenue of Fashion. He's an amazing designer who co-designed the winning artisan van with Shackleton in the Genesis Week. He's building a 1 mile long drag strip between 7 mile and 8 mile road. The drag strip also touches some part of Sherwood Forest, one of the nodes in Detroit, so that makes it extra special. Also want to highlight Woodhood Node's circuit track. Let me show you the map. Hats off to whoever designed the track. It looks so fun. It also has the interesting elements like the hairpin, for example this one, and maybe this one, along with a couple of turns which are perfect for drifting, and then there's this long track which is perfect for drag-like experience. You might have to pay somewhere between 100,000 UPEX to 140,000 UPEX to get a property along the racetrack. The next one is in Kansas City. Kansas City has an interesting racetrack in the neighborhood of Lake Waukomis. The racetrack completely surrounds the lake, which is really interesting. So when you're racing, you'll see buildings on both sides of the track, but you'll also see blue water of the lake on one side of it, which you cannot replicate in most of the racetracks. The cheapest property is gonna cost you $90 in USD. If you wanna buy an UPEX, you can get one for 140,000 UPEX. So see if you wanna get in. Very excited to see this track going live. Would love to race here just to see how it looks. There's also the Dell Run in Kansas City. It's a 2.2 mile long sprint track in the Citadel neighborhood. Since there are so many experienced players behind us, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be big. Lastly, Red Hook in Brooklyn. They have built a 1.25 mile long drag strip along Van Brunt Street. It's this one, starts here and then goes all the way like this and then takes a turn here. It's a part of the Red Hook node. It's strategically designed to cover both the Mid-Adventure shops in the neighborhood. Very important as it also advertises the shops. You know, the drivers will see these shops as they're driving along the racetrack. Even the spectators will look at these shops if they're watching the races, or you know, they might also stop by to buy some Explorers from these shops. That's all in my list. Please let me know if I missed any track. I'm definitely gonna buy a Series 1 when I can. If you want to participate in races and you have the means, you can buy one in the secondary marketplace for a higher markup. If you don't have the means, you can patiently wait for Upland to release more cars. So far, Upland has released only 41 Series 1 cars, and there are 500 in total. If you look at the sheet, we have Genesis trim with the best stats ever. Then we had R trim, which was costing 840,000 UPEX and had slightly lower stats than the Genesis trim. And then there are these cars, E trim and no trim apparently, which will cost you 350,000 UPEX and 280,000 UPEX. So my understanding is, as the price comes down, the stats will also come down. So maybe the cars they release in the future will not be as fast as R trim or Genesis trim, but you can definitely train your block explorer to compensate for that. The racing tournaments might have these classes where R trim is competing with R trim models, E trim is competing with E trim models, and then there's a mix of both where R and E are competing together. So yes, stats wise might see a slight downgrade in E trim and non trim models. What I recommend is don't panic, let the sale begin, see how the stats are like, and if you feel that the stats are decent enough that you can compensate with your block explorer, then go for that. If you think there's a major difference, then you can still buy something in the secondary marketplace. So that should be your strategy. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.